I am going to focus in this video just on finding a contemporary newspaper article, which is part of nearly every experience students have in RCI. Right now, the database that we're recommending for that, which you can see me highlight right here, is called Access World News. There's also a database called ProQuest Global News Stream and one called Nexus Uni. So we basically have three databases that provide newspaper information from a wide set of newspapers. Before we actually go into a database, though, I want to just explain quickly. You know obviously that on the web you can get news from a huge variety of places, so with varying levels of credibility. And you can use a variety of sources on the open web in order to get a newspaper article. Lots of newspapers, of course, if not most newspapers now, provide some kind of web content, and so you can use that. One of the reasons why we suggest you use one of the library databases is that it indexes thousands, if not tens of thousands of newspapers all in one place. And in order to get into the system, they have a certain amount of credibility to begin with as authoritative news sources. So that's why you might want to use that. I'm going to click on this thing called the Newspapers LibGuide, which is right here. And by the way, access to these different databases will be somewhere in your LRAs. I'm going to go to this Newspaper LibGuide, which looks like this, because it provides links to all of the different potential newspaper databases. And so if I scroll down here past the specific COVID information to this newspaper databases section, you'll see here is Global News Stream, Nexus Uni, and one called Access World News. And I'm going to go ahead and click on that and go into that database. The reason being that Access World News, as the name implies, is our most comprehensive international news source. And that can be really important for this project because, again, you're looking at international issues. Now, one thing I want to point out right away about this interface is that you'll notice there's this section called Suggested Topics, and it basically takes all potential topics or research areas and divides it into these different, you can see these different blocks here of information. If you were a person at this point who doesn't have a very good idea of what topic you might want, this is a pretty good way to develop some topic ideas. You could come in here and, for example, say, oh yeah, I'm pretty interested in religion, for example, and click on that and see what kinds of things are out there, or wherever your interests might lie. If we go up to the top, you'll see, of course, that there's this basic search box, which is common, obviously, to all databases. I'm going to go to more search options or to the advanced search options. And we'll recommend that in all of these videos just because you oftentimes can get to the information you need more quickly if you use an advanced search screen. So I'm going to go ahead. I already mentioned my topic is the historical development of the Japanese education system. So I'm going to put Japan in here. And then in another line, I'm going to put education and school. And just a few quick things about the syntax of my search. First of all, you notice I put in Japan with an asterisk, which is Shift-8, that's star at the end of it. That basically will allow me to get multiple endings off that beginning word, Japan. So I can get Japan, I can get Japan's, like possessive, Japan's education system, for example, or the word Japanese, which could be helpful as well. Down here, you can see I've got educat, which isn't even a word, but that will get me education, educational, education, educator, a variety of things. This will get me school, school, schooling. And I also have an or, a capital or between educat and school. The reason being that education and schooling are synonyms, right? They basically mean the same type of conceptual idea. So that would be important as well. And when you think about your topic, you're going to want to think about variant words that describe it, because if the best, so to speak, newspaper article out there uses the word education but not the word school, then you might not see it. And this allows us to get either or both. Now that we have our keywords set up, I'm going to go over here to the different fields that you can select. Most of these databases, there are three primary places that you might look. One is sort of a default searching all fields, which is just, if you just leave this alone, it does that, and it searches across all of these fields. The other thing that you can do is you can limit it to all text, or you can expand it, excuse me, to all text, which means it'll search every word of every article. This tends, in a newspaper database, tends to get you way too many irrelevant things, but it's something important you might want to know. The other thing that you might want to do is click on headline. Headline is essentially the title of the article, and which describes basically what that article is about. So sometimes that can be a good idea too, to limit right down to things that are in the headline. This is going to limit to something that's the newest, which is important. We want to get a contemporary newspaper article. And in fact, many instructors require that your contemporary newspaper article actually is published, for example, in the last year or the last couple of years. You'll also notice that you can refine by location here. And for us, since I'm looking at Japan, I could limit to just the sources in Asia, for example. I'm going to just hold off on doing that, but again, that might be a fairly smart tactic as well. With that set up, I click search. And I'm going to get a large set of information. In fact, I'm getting, over 13,000, you can see here, different news items, starting with the most recent things first. Now, at this point, one of the things that you might want to do to help you narrow, and your instructor might require, is that news comes in a variety of formats. Audio clips, blogs, newswire information, blah, 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 a variety of different things. If we want to stick strictly to newspapers, I can click on this and narrow by that format type. Which hopefully will do. There we go. And so now I'm just looking at newspaper articles. So if I start looking at this list, I want to think about several things about newspaper articles. One is that newspaper articles should be something that provide a contemporary example of your topic that you can look and research the roots of. It is also important that your newspaper article, you don't view it as something that will explain the entire history of your topic. And in fact, it really should be a contemporary example. So, for example, I'm not going to look through these newspaper articles and try to find an article that describes or summarizes the entire history of the Japanese educational system. That's not what I'm looking for. But I want something that gets at a specific aspect of that system in the contemporary world, and why discussions about the Japanese education system are still pertinent today. So this first one says, the Japanese schoolgirls release first album. So, wow, that doesn't, this modern funk rock group has released an album. Well, that doesn't sound like anything that's probably going to help, except maybe that helps me in thinking about, maybe I want to look at music education as a way to narrow my topic. And as I go down, there's something in here about canned fish from Japan being fed to school kids. In fact, there's 3 different articles about it. And you'll notice this in these systems, that oftentimes the same news article gets run in a variety of different places. And so you'll see the same news article, which is a bit annoying, but that's something you have to deal with. So I'm not necessarily interested in canned fish. So I'm going to just keep going down and look. And I'm just kind of scanning here the different things here that might be of interest. And here's one. Okay, so I see this one. It says images of Buddhist sculpture in the Peshawar Museum included in school books in Japan. So I might think, one of the things that's of interest to me is how religion is or is not a part of sort of a standard educational experience in a particular country. And so maybe I want to focus on that. And so this could be an example of putting particular photographs of religious sculptures in a book, and what that might mean. And this article could work for that. Or if I look down here farther, this next one is something about sex education, and so that could be, again, just a subtopic area that I might want to look at. I see this article down here: no end in sight to debate over Japanese school year. So one of the things I'm pretty familiar with is that Japan has a long school year, like as opposed to the U.S. So I can investigate that kind of thing. At any rate, when I find a newspaper article that I think might work well, like this one about Buddha, I can click on it, and so here's the entire article, and of course I can just download this to my computer, or otherwise click this envelope icon to email it to myself. I can also, if I go here to the cite icon, I can cite it in Chicago Manual of Style, which is what we use for this RCI project. And so here is, I'm highlighting this particular citation, and I can cut and paste that and use that in my LRA. So that's all I wanted to tell you about that. But one last thing about the Chicago style and whether or not this is an appropriate Chicago style citation. One of the things, if I click here on this tab and go back to the Roots of Contemporary Issues LibGuide, there is a link on the left side here, the left navigation bar, to Chicago Style Guide. And what this is, it's a reproduction of the quick guide from the University of Chicago people, the ultimate authorities on the topic of Chicago citation. And it gives a little bit about what those should, different bibliographic and footnote citations should look like. So here's a section on newspaper articles. And so it shows right here an example of what one might look like. So if you pull a citation from a database, you probably want to go in and always compare it with this to make sure that it matches up well with what's written here. Because again, this is the stuff that's the ultimate authority on the topic.